What is strength? We all need to feel like we are strong, that we can persevere, not only to be physically strong, but emotionally strong and spiritually strong. To be strong means to be able to hold the weight of something and to remain. The problem is, there is only so much we can hold, and not usually for a long period of time. Only when we are able to find the source of our strength will we be truly strong. Not just to have a short burst of power, but rather a strength that perseveres, a long-lasting strength, a strength that can not just start, but finish. This only can come from knowing the source for our strength, which is in Jesus. This is who I am. I am strong.
Hey everyone, I've had some really awesome seasons of life, and I've had some really more difficult seasons in life. I've had times that I've been really proud and want to show off, and some times that I'm quite ashamed of, to be honest. And what's been so beautiful along the way is finding strength to endure, strength to persevere, strength to keep going. And I remember one time in particular, it was in 2013. It was the year the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl. That part was really good, but on the other end of my life, it was a pretty dark season for me. I had grandparents that I was very close with, both pass away on my father's side, and then my grandmother on my mom's side also passed away that same year. It seemed like a lot of weight to hold, a lot of things to just endure in that season of my life. When I reflect back on 2013, I reflect back on it as the worst year of my life. And during that season, my wife and I had a very close friend who almost passed away. She was hospitalized for months. This was somebody that my wife, Isabel, would be so close with that she would even call her a sister. And in this season of our life, with just so much death and just heaviness, my wife and I put a strain on our marriage. And it got to the point where I was even looking for a divorce lawyer to separate from my wife. I remember being in this really, really heavy, dark season. And what got me through it was what I believe to be biblically sound, to be something that God ordained for us to be strong in really difficult seasons. I want to read a couple verses to you. It's found in Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verses 9 through 12. It says this: "Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls, and has not another to lift him up. Again, if two lie together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him." I see this trend throughout this little passage in Ecclesiastes, that two are better than one. I see this over and over and over, that two are better than one. But then it ends in this peculiar way, because we see this number over and over and over again, that two are better than one. But then it says, "A threefold cord is not quickly broken." Not quickly broken. In that season of my life, what got me through it was what I believe to be biblically sound. What God put together for his people to be strong, to withstand, to endure. The first thing my first thought with it is this: is we are too weak when we are alone. We were never meant to be alone. This was never God's intention for humanity that we would try to do it alone, that we would try to hold this thing up by ourselves. It wasn't His plan. And I'm reminded of the story in Exodus. In the book of Exodus in chapter 17, there's the story about the Amalek army and how Joshua was sent down by Moses to fight in this battle. And what happened in this season was Moses went up on the hill with a couple of his friends. Their names were Aaron and Hur. And as they fought, if you take attention to verse 11, in Exodus chapter 17 and verse 11, it says, whenever Moses held up his hand, Israel prevailed. And whenever he lowered his hand, the Amalek prevailed. But Moses grew weary. So he took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. While Aaron and Hur held up his hands, one on one side and the other on the other side. So his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua overwhelmed Amalek and his people with the sword. What's so beautiful about this is Moses he was in the middle of a battle. He was fighting a battle, whether or not it was in the same capacity that Joshua was. Moses was in the middle of this battle. And the only time that Moses could prevail over the Amalek army was when his hands were held up high. But the problem was he got tired. I love how it says it. It says that Moses' hands grew weary. We are strong enough, but God created us to be together. God created this idea of strength and endurance in a specific thing. And it's that we are strong when we are together. We are strong not when we feel like we can persevere by ourselves or endure by ourselves, but rather this idea that the two are better than one. So when we talk about this idea of where does our strength come from, God, He actually sets it up that our strength comes from one another. Our strength comes from doing life together. The next part about this is we are strong when we are in community with God. We are strong when we are in community with God. We see this in Ecclesiastes. Going back to there, Ecclesiastes in chapter 4, it talks about that the threefold cord is not easily broken. We see this a lot of times. If you've ever been to a wedding, we see this as a demonstration, as a verse to reflect back that what God unified together would be stronger with God in the middle of it. And this is literally God's plan for humanity, that we would do life together, that we would be together in authentic community, and that is what brings us strength. Hey, I've been kind of holding something for a little bit. If I could be honest with you guys, it might be a little cheesy, but this whole time I've been holding a rock. It was behind my back. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh! I know everybody's like stunned. They're like, he was holding a rock the whole time. Yeah, I was holding a rock. It was just behind my back. And what I think of when I think of this rock is. I think of weight. I think of heaviness. I think of something that is maybe rigid, something that it's noticeable. It's noticeable if I walked around with this, it would be noticeable. And what happens a lot of times is this rock represents something. It represents a weight. It represents something that's heavy in our lives. Now, here's the thing. This is where pride comes in. Is a lot of times we'll take stuff on and we'll hold it and we think, hey, I'm strong enough to hold this. I can handle this by myself. This is just something. It's just one rock, one weight. I got this. But the problem is inevitably this weight will it will become heavy. And even as I was holding it behind my back for the silly illustration purpose, I could start to feel something that I felt like I could hold on to for a long time. I could feel the weight of it. But the thing is, this is not the only weight that comes into my life. This is just this represents something in my life that is a weight. I would say that sin is a weight. There's heaviness to sin. We get the diagnosis. There's heaviness to life at times. There's heaviness. There's a weight when things don't go the way that we planned. There's weight when marriage seems harder than it was at the beginning. There's weight when we try to raise our children the best that we can, and they don't turn out the way that we were trying to. And there's weight when the job that we thought we would always have, all of a sudden it's gone. It feels like there's so much weight to life at times. And it's really hard to bear. It's really hard to hold up. But what happens is we can hold this up for a season. But what God calls us to do is actually, He calls us to be in community together to help hold up these things, but more importantly, help us to know where to place them. Sin, anger, just shame, and areas of our life that we just don't measure up to what we were hoping to. There's so much weight to it, and what God's called us to do is to have people in our lives to not only help us carry the weight, but help us put the weight somewhere where it can actually be forever. The weight of sin and brokenness and heaviness and all this stuff, that weight, it needs to go somewhere. And like I was sharing at the beginning of this, that season of my life that was so difficult, I had somewhere to go. I had close friends. I had pastors. I had a community that I went to and said, hey, I have this weight. I have this brokenness, and I don't know what to do with it. And instead of hiding it and pretending like it's not there, I can't hold this anymore. This is too much to hold. I needed to go somewhere. And what happened was I had friends and pastors and people in my life that I could say, hey, I need help. And they helped me bring it back to the place it needed to go. And that brings me to my final thought for today's discussion. It's found in Matthew chapter 17. It's one of my favorite verses in all the Bible. Matthew chapter 17 and verse 28 says, Come to me, all of you who labor and are heavy laden, all of you that have so much weight. The marriage didn't work out the way that you wanted to. The financial piece of your life, you tried really hard, but it just seemed like it's so overwhelming. Maybe for you, it's just the family unit. It seems like there's so much strife and division, and there's just so much weight. There's so much heaviness, and we feel like I can't hold this anymore. And what God says is, hey, you need to be together. You need to talk together. Be like Moses and his friends, Aaron and Hur. They held up his hand so that he might win the battle. But inevitably, this needs to go on the ultimate rock, which is Jesus. He says, "Come to me, all of you who are who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." True rest doesn't come from holding this up. Everybody can hold up weight for a period, but inevitably we have to put down the weight because it's not ours to hold anymore. So he says, come to me, put the weight on me, the brokenness, the shame, the hurt, the guilt, all that weight, it's not yours to hold any longer. It's his to hold. It's not ours. But that's what's so beautiful about a community, that we could be so strong. It's a threefold cord is not easily broken. And when we are in community with each other, authentic, real, genuine community, and we say, hey, I've been struggling with this. This weight seems so big in my life. and we come into an agreement with God, there's healing, there's strength, and it gets placed on the ultimate rock, which is Jesus. And it says this in verse 29, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. You will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Friends, we need rest for our souls. The big idea here is this, is that whatever you're going through, you are strong enough to get through it. Whatever season of life that you feel like is so big and so overwhelming, you are strong enough to get through it. But the reason you're strong is not because you do it by yourself. The reason that you're strong is because you have community, you have each other, and you have God. And that threefold cord is not easily broken. Whatever you're going through, you are strong enough to get through it. And do not let the enemy lie to you and say that this is yours to hold. And the next morning, sometimes I've done this so many times in my life, that the thing that I left at the altar, this weight, the shame, the guilt, I put it at the altar, and the next morning I wake up and I pick it up again and I start about my day again. And I have to lay it back at the altar, that this is not mine to hold anymore. And true strength knows where your strength comes from. It comes from each other and through God. It is a threefold cord, and it is not easily broken. I hope that this message, this talk, this time, this word today blesses your heart, but really encourages us to be real and authentic in our communities, and know that healing comes when we can be honest with each other and honest with God. And whatever you're going through, whatever season you're going through, you can get through it. Thank you guys. I love you guys. I pray that your discussions are not only productive, but authentic, that they are genuine, that they are real, that there's so much healing when we come in authentically and genuinely. Love you guys. Have a blessed week. We'll talk to you again soon.